Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this presentation. In this essay I'd like to talk about the super entitled illegal aliens, illegal migrants, undocumented migrants, depending on which side of the activist spectrum you're on, but the sense of super entitlement. Now I've noticed a number of videos, whether it be from online material, whether it be from Canada or Britain, Australia, United States, it doesn't matter where it's from, particularly the first world, in fact exclusively the first world, where migrants from the poorest countries in the world who've moved illegally to the West are complaining, sometimes quite bitterly and very emotionally, about what the entitlements they think they should have, or believe they should have, or insist they should have, that they're not getting. And this is quite remarkable. So let's have a look at it now. If you have a look at these videos from all around the first world, you'll notice that the wording and the phrasing and the characterisation of their plight is almost word for word the same wherever you go. So this clearly indicates that it's being centrally scripted, it's being choreographed, and it's being put together by NGO, globalist race hustlers and grifters. So these people don't have the vocabulary or the understanding of these issues themselves, so they're being given scripts to read, and the white West is xenophobic, it's racist, it's far right, it's neo-Nazi. They've got all the phrases there, words and phrases that they wouldn't even know existed until they arrived in the West, and they're handed them by, again, the NGO scriptwriters. So we need to first understand that they're not talking about something they understand. And it's very much the tactics that the globalist sort of liberal left Marxist type people use. They insert just one a black lesbian into a company of 10 million people, insist that all the other 9.9 million people must adjust around the one black lesbian, because if they don't, they're far-right Nazis, quite possibly Hitler, by the way. So this is very much that tactic. So they insert these people in there and then go, look, you're all racists. But it's part of the blame, shame, race, grift and hustle game. But those are the tactics. Now, let's just have a look at the complaints that they have. And I've made a note. In fact, the list is so long that I wondered about would I be able to cover it all. So here's the go. So firstly, they complained the food's not of good enough quality. And in fact, before I even get to the complaints, let me talk about the countries these people come from, because some of them identify some from this or that place in, say, Africa, and they're mainly African. Now, this is where the per capita average income is like less than $2,000. So that's 1/30th of what, say, an average Western per capita GDP is, 1/30th. So if you're getting paid $100 a week in the first world, these people are getting paid somewhere between $2.50 and $3 a week in the places they come from. So that'll give you some sort of perspective as to how poor those countries are. Now, we also need to look a little bit more widely. For example, many of them live in a barter economy rather than a wage economy, or some sort of a hybrid there. So the guy down the road, has chickens that have eggs. He trades those eggs for the folks around the corner that grow vegetables and so on. So we need to put that in some perspective as well. Nonetheless, now 75% of the households don't have electricity, and the electricity they do have is very unreliable. Even more than that number, getting on for 80% don't have running water or sewerage. The sewerage that does exist frequently breaks down, so there's raw sewage running down the streets pretty much 24/7. And it's an average of 900 yards. People have to travel on average 900 yards to the nearest well, and that's an average. Some people travel, of course, further than that. The idea of getting medical care is, once a month, a NGO type doctor will come around to these places and for one day and do medical care. Most of the time, these so-called medical carers are really distributing propaganda on why don't you go to the West, and why don't you break laws, and why don't you do this, and here are the contact details for an NGO that'll convey it. So these so-called medical help are really propaganda distributors. Nonetheless, once a month someone will come around for one day, and they'll be in the regional village, so it can be days walking or travelling to there. Now, once a week, a government bus, which only holds like 20 people or something, comes around. But that may or may not come around once a week, or it may come along at any time during the day. The likelihood that it's going to have mechanical problems and break down is high. The amount of people that want to use it is far greater than the number, and so on. So you get very unsafe travelling conditions, people hanging off the roof and all sorts of stuff like that, which is very third world, by the way. So these are the conditions that they come from. Now, deplorable conditions. Infant mortality is off the charts. Life expectancy is 20 years less than it would be in the West. Crime is absolutely rampant. When getting hacked to death by a machete is a decent probability in those sort of places. So that's the sort of world that they come from. There's no working infrastructure or anything like that you could speak of. So then they get to the first world and they say, gee, well, the food's not right. We want food like we have back in our home country. Sure, you're giving us free food, but we don't really like it. We want our food and we want it cooked especially for us. The clothes that you offer us we want our traditional clothes from our country. Well, why can't you supply those clothes for free? We don't want to have to wear tracksuits or things like that. I know you're giving it for free, but we don't care. We want our own clothes. Well, why don't you make those for us and give us those things? Even though there are free English language classes, we don't see why we should have to attend. Instead, you should supply interpreters in our regional dialect. Now, there are, in a lot of these African countries, there are not only separate languages, but dialects that are so different that one group can barely communicate with another, and they want people that speak those languages and dialects supplied as interpreters, and they want them to be numerous. It's no good saying there is an interpreter, but they're busy looking after someone else. No, I want, you have to have hundreds of, if there's 1,000 people from that area of Africa, then we expect hundreds of interpreters to on demand, whenever we need them to be right there to do any interpreting we want whenever we want it. Why should we attend these free English language classes? That's white supremacy, xenophobia, and that. We don't have to do that. And various other services like, well, why can't we have special medical care in the free accommodation you give us? Why do we have to go to the white person's hospital? Why do we have to go down the it's a few miles down the road? Why do we have to do that? Why can't you bring all that medical care to us? Why do we have to get on public transport to go here or there? Why do my children have to go to a school which could be a couple of miles away? Why can't you bring teachers in here to do all the teaching, and so on and so on? So the sense of entitlement is quite astonishing. And now we need to think about this more widely. These people have no concept of money, a money economy, wealth, the cost of they have no concept of it. Their concept is like a 2-year-old child in that sense. And in their own villages and where they come from, they will share things. So the resources of the village can be shared. Sure, there's the village chieftain that might get a bigger slice of the action, but they share what they have. And if you're a visitor to their village, they'll invite you into their mud hut and to sleep on the dirt mud floor, and they'll share their meal with you, and all this sort of thing. They'll do that. So that's their concept, because they've got no wealth. They're prepared to share the little bit that they have, because they've really spent no time or effort sort of building wealth. Therefore, they've got a much sort of raw, hunter-gatherer type attitude to share what they have. So they come to the first world, which is where you work to create, to build the house, sort of, taxes taken from the citizens to build the public infrastructure. And they've still got that 2-year-old concept of wealth and so on and what you share. So they come to the West and they say, wow, you guys have so much. I mean, holy fuck, you guys have got shitloads of everything. So you should share it with us. What's wrong? Why can't you share it with us? I see people driving nice cars and living in nice houses. Why can't you share that with me? What's wrong, you damn racist, xenophobe, fascist Nazis? So this is very much an attitude that they come with, which, by the way, is encouraged and fostered by the NGO race grifter hustlers. So you tell them that they're not. You tell them they're xenophobes. Come on, you do, and this is very much part of the wider, globalist architecture of grift that they impose on the white West. But so these people come with these insane expectations, and they receive hardly any pushback. Instead, our politicians that are supposed to be, serving us and elected by us, instead, virtue signal to the nth degree. So we'll help these people that have arrived illegally and give them everything free. So these people get free food, free accommodation, free medical care, free clothing, free mobile phones, free everything, and yet still they complain. That cuisine, hey, that food, it's not as not up to our standard. It's white Western food. You're giving us white Western food. You fucking damn racist. And so this is the grift that goes on. Now you can say, well, these people are unappreciative and so on, but we need to look at the cycle. The events, if you like, that brought them to the West. Firstly, these are illiterate rural peasants. They've got no comprehension of anything. These aren't sophisticated people with sophisticated understanding of the world, of societies, of economics, of wealth. Again, they're 2-year-old children when it comes to understanding these things. So they've been race grifted and race hustled by armies of NGOs that are quite determined to move as many surplus population people from the poor countries, move those people from those poor countries to the rich white West. That's what the globalist NGO race hustle grift crowd are doing. So they're going into these villages and saying, hey, guess what? Why do you think you're poor and you don't have those things that, why don't you have places like New York City here? I don't know. It's because the white people stole it from you. So you go over to New York or to London or Sydney, Australia, wherever, you go to those places and take back what's yours, because that's why you're poor. You're not poor for any reason other than the fact that Africa didn't even discover the wheel until the white folks come, irrelevant. They stole it from, that's why you're poor. So these people then go, wow, okay, well, how do I get from my rural African village to the... Not a problem. There is a massive transport infrastructure supplied by the NGOs, and we'll move you around. We'll give you your food, your drink, your clothing. We'll get you from here to there. We'll get you right into Europe, and unless you want to go around using the people smugglers, it's all supplied for free. Oh wow! You mean you can travel? You can transport me thousands of miles across the globe, all for free, all paid for, all looked after, handheld the whole way. Oh, holy crap! Well, I'll do that. So we have to realise these people would never make this journey, never even dream of it, nor could they make it if they weren't hustled and race grifted into it, and a sea, an ocean of propaganda dropped on them to encourage them to do it. They would never do that. It's beyond that. Remember, they've got a 2-year-old level of comprehension of the world, and people with 2-year-old comprehension of the world don't decide to travel thousands of miles. They just don't. They stay in their village, and these are people through a gazillion generations have lived in that village, in that area. So that they don't just suddenly decide to uproot and go to a first world country. Now, on top of that, the NGOs promise them everything. Say, well, when you get there, you'll have free everything. The streets are paved with gold in these places. Look at all the things that these people have. Look at these fine buildings. Look at these, motor vehicles. Oh, wow, you can have all that too. And so they're seduced into believing that somehow by magic everyone in the West has waterfront mansions and drives Maseratis. They have no concept. You have to work for that. These very simple peasants, again, illiterate in their own language. They've never had a job. They've never worked. They have no understanding of anything. Are being moved en masse to the West, and they just can't understand why can't I have what I want? You people have so much. You make it appear by magic. Well, why can't you give us these things? And so they bring that level of encouraged and egged on by the globalist activists and the NGO activists. So this is sort of what's going on at the moment, and you're staggered. Well, these people are so unappreciative. They seem to do nothing but complain and whinge. That they complain that their mobile phone is not the latest Apple iPhone. Why are they complaining? Why can't I have that? There's another one was complaining that there's a limit on how often they can call back to their West African country and brag about how they've conquered the White West and they're getting all this free stuff, and encouraging other people to come over and tell cousin this and uncle that to come over as well. They're complaining that there's a limit, like $1,000 limit or something, or 100 hours talk time limit on their monthly phone. What an outrage! They should be able to call. So again, this simple peasant thinking, and then the belief that they're going to be given everything plus more, and then complaining bitterly they're not. But they're lining up to say how evil and wicked and racist and fascist and Nazi and xenophobic and the West is. But so when they're asked, well, okay, if it's that bad, don't you want to go back to the impoverished basket case shithole you came from? Oh, Oh, no. I want to stay here and try and hustle and blame and shame you guys into giving me even more free stuff. It's insane. You've been with Tacit Australia, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.